We don't want to just jump into anti-cancer supplements. We don't want to jump into the fancy, frilly parts of preventing your cancer from coming back, the cancer from coming back. We really want to do what is best for your body, put in the foundational work, and then build a plan up from there. If you skip the batter, jump straight into the sprinkles, you're really not building anything. You are just kind of decorating empty air, and it's not really that delicious. Just having a spoonful of sprinkles is not very delicious. So we really want to make sure that we are building the cake appropriately, i.e., we are building your recurrence prevention plan appropriately. Welcome back to the Flourish After Cancer podcast. Today, I'm going to be chatting about my favorite thing, or at least one of my favorite things, which is cake, and how it really surprisingly relates to your cancer recovery and recurrence prevention plan. And no, I'm not going to be here talking about sugar and how sugar feeds cancer. That's totally going to be a topic for another episode that I'll be doing potentially in the near future here for sure, because I think it does deserve a conversation. But today I want to talk about how your post-cancer plan is kind of like baking a cake, and how skipping the cake, going straight to the sprinkles might be actually holding you back from healing and feeling better and reducing the risk of cancer ever coming back. So let's get into this. Basically, I want you to visualize yourself building a beautiful celebratory cake. It's going to be something totally delicious. Or maybe you're not baking it because maybe you're not a baker, but someone's baking it. You can picture someone baking this cake, and it's going to be the best tasting cake in the world. And in order to build a cake, you need a cake batter, you need some icing, and you also need some frills, whether it's sprinkles or, little beads or something like that you're going to put on it. In this case, let's just call it sprinkles. So you've got your cake batter, you've got your icing, and you've got your sprinkles. And in order to make your cake batter, which is going to be the foundation of your cake, you need the right ingredients. You need the right order in which to kind of put them in, mix them together. Like, you know how you mix your dry ingredients first, and then you mix your wet ingredients, and then you put them all together. You also need to bake it for the right amount of time. And you need to find the right flavors to kind of come together, so they all complement one another. And if you don't cook this cake correctly, if you don't bake this cake correctly, if it's put together with the wrong ingredients or not for the right amount of time, then the cake's just going to fall apart, right? It's going to crumble, or it's just not going to be fully baked, and it's going to topple over anyway. It's going to kind of melt into things, no matter how good your icing is. Okay, so keep that in mind. The next part is the icing. It adds extra flavor, extra beauty. You can put some color in there. You can make it look really fancy with certain little tips on your icing bag or whatever it might be. You can tell I'm not a huge baker, probably by now. And you know what? If you just had a spoonful of icing, it is delicious. It kind of maybe hits a sweet tooth a little bit here, but it's still not cake. You can't just have a spoonful of icing and call it cake. And basically, the icing is meant to enhance what's already there. So you still need your batter, and then your icing adds a little bit of extra something to the cake. And then we get into the sprinkles, which are basically, they're the fun, the flashy part. They might even be trendy, and they are just going to add a little bit of extra personality to your overall cake. So now that I've made you all a little bit hungry, potentially, and I wish I had a better analogy that was like broccoli and Brussels sprouts and things like that, but I'm working on it. I just don't have anything as good as this yet. But let's get into what am I talking about when it comes to cake in your cancer recurrence prevention plan? When you look at this, so I described your batter. What is batter in terms of cancer prevention and recurrence prevention and recovery? Basically, your batter is your foundational health work. What is your icing? It is your personalized functional support parts. And the sprinkles are the things like your anti-cancer supplements or cancer-killing foods or cancer-preventing foods. All of these things are going to come together, and I'm going to go through them into great detail in this episode here. And just a thought process here, if you skip the batter, jump straight into the sprinkles, you're really not building anything. You are just kind of decorating empty air, and it's not really that delicious. Just having a spoonful of sprinkles is not very delicious. It's not very satisfying. So we really want to make sure that we are building the cake appropriately, i.e., we are building your recurrence prevention plan appropriately. And we don't want to just jump into anti-cancer supplements. We don't want to jump into the fancy, frilly parts of preventing your cancer from coming back, the cancer from coming back. We really want to do what is best for your body, put in the foundational work, and then build a plan up from there. We've seen this many times when we're working with women who are super smart, super intelligent. I know that you are some of these people who have done your research, have gone to great extents to read almost every piece of information that's possibly out there and available to you. And if you are one of these people, often we are seeing them come in with a cabinet full of supplements, and they still don't feel good. They're still overwhelmed. They're still confused. They're still exhausted, whatever it might be that they're struggling with. And it's not because they're not trying. It's not because you're not trying. It's because the cake is kind of like only half baked and the icing is missing and there's too much sprinkles on it, is kind of what it comes down to. So what the heck am I talking about? Let's get into it piece by piece. So let's start with the cake batter, which is about focusing on the strongest research first. We want to do these foundational approaches. We want to build the foundation of the cake with these foundational, heaviest researched, most effective research approaches first. And you can kind of think of them as the ingredients to the cake. I'm going to talk through, actually, the 6 pillars that I'll talk through are like the ingredients to the cake. So 6 pillars of cancer prevention are just a way that I've categorized certain parts of a cancer prevention plan in this batter. And these 6 pillars include nutrition, mindset, movement, environment, so looking at environmental contaminants. And then I put digestion and detoxification together because they are highly linked. And I've also put epigenetics and functional testing together because they are also very linked. So those are 6 pillars: nutrition, mindset, movement, environment, digestion, detoxification are 1, and epigenetics and functional testing are 1. These are the ingredients to your batter. And under each of these ingredients, there's like subcategories that we go into based on the best research available. So we are looking at what in the nutrition realm has the strongest research. We want to apply that first. What in exercise has the greatest research? We want to apply that first. And whenever we're working with our clients, our flourishers in the roadmap to recovery, we will not start with fancy supplements or lists of foods or anything like that. No fancy testing even, until we are satisfied that these foundational approaches, the most evidence-backed, research-backed approaches, are put into place first. Questions like, are you sleeping throughout the night, need to be asked. Are you eating enough protein in your day? Are you strength training? Are you having daily bowel movements? Are you managing stress? These all seem very basic. And to be honest, a lot of the women who come to work with us, they do have a lot of these things in place. We often have a couple of them to work on, but they're often pretty decent. But we just want to go through a checklist of these things just to make sure, in the realm of these 6 pillars, in the realm of these foundational ingredients for the cake batter, are they in place first? Because if we do not have a very strong, delicious cake batter, then the cake collapses and you just don't want to eat it, right? It's just not going to do any good for your body if we don't have these foundational approaches into place first. And before moving into the icing, like you can't ice a half-baked cake either. It's going to slide off all over the place. There's just nothing to ice basically if it's not even cooked. If it's too crumbly, then the icing's just going to pull the cake apart. So I hope you're kind of starting to see the analogy here, I think is the right word, and the story here as to like why we really want to not go jumping ahead of ourselves. And we want to really focus in on building a very strong foundation here. So I hope that makes sense. Basically, the foundations are going to give us some structure, some balance, and some long-term resilience. That's what we're really looking for here, because your life is going to be different day by day. You have different things you want to do and accomplish. We have different schedules, things like that. So if we don't have a strong foundation, a consistent foundation, then adding in the additional details is just going to not really do a whole lot. It's just going to cause the foundations to crumble, your plan to crumble. I'll talk a little bit more about this batter here too. Let's actually go into icing, and I'll give you an example of nutrition and the differences between cake batter nutrition, the foundational evidence-backed approaches, as well as the icing nutrition here. So just to kind of recap, your icing is the extra flavor, the extra details that will still make a very big difference, but you can't have your icing without your cake batter first. So whenever we're talking about icing in terms of your care plan, we are thinking about gathering your personalized data. So we've already laid the foundations of the most evidence-backed, generalized information. So when we're looking at evidence, it's very generalized. It's not necessarily specific to you. It might be specific to a cancer type or whatever, but it's really more specific, or not specific. It's really more generalized to a general population that's been studied. whereas that's the batter. So whereas we want to talk about the icing now, which is going to be gathering your personalized data points. So we're going to be focused and specific with certain foods, certain supplements, certain exercise plans, certain follow-up testing. Things like that is where we get more specific because we are looking at you as the individual. We are looking at your data points. We are looking at your taste buds. We are looking at your schedules, pretty much all of these things. And this is the icing, the little personalized touches here that are just going to add an additional layer, strength, resilience to your cancer recurrence prevention plan and recovery plan. So again, batter is more general, focused on strongest research. And then we've got icing that's more personalized, adds in that extra layer of strength. Same as how icing adds strength to your cake, right? So let's focus in on batter nutrition versus icing nutrition for a nice little example here. So cake batter nutrition is just the foundational food habits we know have the strongest research. It's kind of like the eat well and exercise general knowledge, but a little bit of extra layer. Basically, whenever we're talking about nutrition for cake batter, we're talking about more colorful vegetables and antioxidant-rich plant foods. So we know that the more plants we have in our diet, the lower the risk of cancer coming back, the lower risk of getting cancer in the first place. We know that having higher fiber intake can make a difference with reducing cancer risk. Again, it's mostly linked to having more plants in the diet, but between the antioxidants and fiber, it's those components in plants that give us the cancer recurrence prevention impact. We know that having less sugar is going to have a good impact on reducing cancer risk. We know that having less saturated fat and ultra-processed foods is going to have a reduction in cancer recurrence risk. So just very generalized cake batter nutrition advice. That's the same level here. But if we're going to take it to the next level, which I feel like is where a lot of people are, and whether you're at the cake batter or the icing, it doesn't matter. You're going to benefit from working on one of these things. But I just find most of the people who are listening into a lot of this nutrition advice, holistic advice when it comes to cancer they already know the generalized advice. They're looking more for the details. So this is where the details come into place, is to adding in your icing layer, which is the nutrition that's less broad stroked. It is more based on you personally. So things we want to look at are like, what are your labs telling us? What are your symptoms telling us? What are your genetics and epigenetics telling us? What is the treatment plan that you had? What might be depleted based on that treatment plan that you had? Just basically, what are your overarching goals? Do you have a health history of heart disease or blood sugar dysregulation? Do you have a family medical history of these things? Do you have bone problems? Anything like that? Do you have anything showing that you have low iron or nutrient absorption anywhere? Is your insulin creeping up? Are you dealing with persistent fatigue? All these things are gathering your personalized details in order to apply nutrition in a functional way, a more kind of prescribed way, to help your body to heal and tackle these underlying conditions that can be addressed. So if you have low iron, we want to focus on iron-rich foods. If you have low fatigue, we want to see, or if you have fatigue, we want to focus on, is it a protein deficiency? Is it a nutrient deficiency? Let's include more of the foods that have protein. Let's make sure you're getting your macros broken down appropriately, your protein, carbs, and fats. Let's make sure that we are getting more fiber into your diet if you've got blood sugar dysregulation. This is where we get a little bit specific. And you're like, well, Megan, how does this all apply to cancer prevention when I'm focusing on blood sugar and cholesterol and energy and things like that? Well, it all does, because you are one big tube. And if something is inflamed or off or unbalanced, then that's going to stimulate other pro-inflammatory, pro-cancer processes in the body. So if you're having symptoms, or if there's certain things popping up in your blood work with regards to certain organ processes, metabolic processes, these are going to create this environment in your body that's going to be conducive to cancer not being there or cancer being there. So if we can start to get a little bit more personalized with your data points, then one, it's going to help you to feel much better. And two, it is going to help to create the environment where cancer just doesn't want to be. You're going to hear me say that in pretty much every episode I ever do, because I think it's super important to understand that concept. So it's kind of where nutrition gets exciting. It's kind of boring, bland, very generic information that you might get from like an oncologist who doesn't have a lot of experience in nutrition if you're just looking at the foundational, the batter part of your nutrition plan. But the personalized part, the icing, is where it's very exciting. We get to know you a little bit better. You get to know you a little bit better. It becomes more focused. You understand a little bit more detail as to like what's going to move the needle and what needs to happen, as opposed to just trying to apply everything all at once and hoping that it works, hoping that it sticks. It's also easier for you to carry out sometimes, very motivational to know like what's off and where do you need to focus. It's easier for you to accomplish those goals when you know what you need to do a little bit more specifically. And we can also get more targeted, more anti-cancer, more symptom. We can help the symptoms better whenever we can have your personalized data in order to apply the next level of support, this icing. All right, so I hope that makes sense. Um, so we talked about the batter and how it's like just generic, but very, very important. I should stop saying generic, but it's very generic, but very, very important anti-cancer evidence-backed approaches. And I can't tell you how many times people do skip some things like strength training. Are you guys strength training? Strength training? I hope that you're strength training. So very important to get the batter in place. And then we go into icing, which is personalized details, gathering your data points. So now let's talk about the sprinkles, which are the flashy anti-cancer supplements, cancer-killing supplements, cancer-killing foods, cancer-promoting foods that you want to avoid. These are the sprinkles. And this is basically what gathers a lot of attention online, unfortunately. So if you ever come across like just things telling you that you need to take medicinal mushrooms or green tea extracts or curcumin or methylene blue or sulforaphane, or you need to eat more broccoli sprouts or include more green juices, these are sprinkles. And are they important? Yes, I do think they are very important. Are they bad for you? No, not necessarily. Like, they have to be taken with caution because we don't want it to interfere with certain parts of your medications or treatment plans or whatever it might be. But are they a foundation? Absolutely not. Are they really going to move the needle when it comes to helping to block cancer? Absolutely not. We need to look at your batter and your icing first before we dive into these flashy sprinkles, for sure. So I want to put it this way. You wouldn't just have a spoonful of sprinkles and call it dessert. The sprinkles are only really enjoyable if you've got the cake batter and then the icing too, right? So we want to also build your plan like this. We want to build it so that you've got these foundational approaches, these personalized data points into place, and then we want to sprinkle in these anti-cancer supplements, the anti-cancer foods, the cancer-killing foods, things like that. We want to sprinkle those in. We don't want to rely on them to block cancer. You can speak with any professional cancer expert, and they will tell you about all these foundations being the greatest approaches first. And then they'll talk about the potentially like the medications that are like the ivermectin, the metformin, things like that. Like, they'll be talking about all of these off-label medications for cancer as just additives. They're very important, very effective in certain cases, but they'll also say like, oh, and you've got to have your foundations in place. The unfortunate part is that they just say it kind of like that. It's just kind of like it's just it's just a second thought. Oh yes, and you've got to have these foundations in place too. And I find a lot of practitioners aren't really digging in deep enough a lot of the time to the foundational approaches, to the personalized approaches before they're like, take this medication. I think a lot of the times we might be getting pushed by our clients and their urgency and their belief based on a lot of social media hype that it's very important for them to do the supplements, to be afraid of certain foods, and to do the off-label medications. And that's kind of like what's thrown in front of their faces a lot of the time. So in order to dive into these other important parts that are more specific to you and are going to move the needle, it's really hard to get people convinced to do those things sometimes because they're not as sexy, I guess, is what we could say. But seriously, if you are relying on curcumin, for example, or if you're looking for the next best, greatest supplement and you're still not eating anti-inflammatory foods, or you're eating more pro-inflammatory foods, if you're not strength training regularly, if you're not sleeping, if you don't even know what your vitamin D levels are, if you have not tested your IGF-1, or if your IGF-1 is high, if you're stressed to the max, the sprinkles can't fix any of that. The supplements that are cancer killing or the foods that are cancer killing are not going to touch any of that. You really need to get into the cake batter and the icing first before we throw in these sprinkles. And when you have a combination of your cake batter, your icing, and then your sprinkles, this is where your true plan is all put together for sure. All right. So I just want to invite a little bit of a reflection here. So basically, this is a question. Are you working on your cake batter? Are you working on the cake batter in the strongest research? Or are you layering in the icing and gathering your personalized data? Is that kind of the level that you're at right now? Or are you chasing some sprinkles right here without realizing that your base isn't even solid yet? And I just have to say, if you don't know where you are, if you don't know what you're starting with, really don't worry. You're not behind. It's very common for us to have women approach us in the state where they're just like, I've been taking these 12 supplements and I don't know. I don't know what my blood work is telling me. Everyone says it's fine, but I don't think they've really tested it a whole lot. Um, that's not uncommon, and I just want you to know you're not behind. You might just need a better chef, perhaps an experienced holistic cancer team by your side, and if that's the case, then you know where to find us. But basically, I just want to recap here. We don't want you to be building your life, your cancer recovery plan on sprinkles. I really want you to focus in on the 6 pillars that I mentioned: the nutrition, mindset, movement, the environment, as well as the detoxification and digestion, which is 1, and then the epigenetics and functional testing is 2. These are some foundational approaches that matter. I want you to gather your personalized detail, the icing, and then really focus in on that before going into too many sprinkles, right? I have some free resources for you in the show notes to help you to get started on a lot of that. There's quite a few trainings that I've put together on figuring out where are your foundational approaches, what is the mindset behind it, what is the reasoning behind it, basically where you want to start, and what do you do, and very important information in those trainings of where to start and keep going. And if this episode has helped you to shift your mindset around cancer prevention, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to send me a message on Instagram, a DM on Instagram. I'd be curious, like, where do you feel like you're at in this plan? What part of the cake basically are you working on? Are you working on your batter, your icing, your sprinkles? Where are you at right now? So I hope that was very helpful. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this helps you in your journey to flourishing after cancer. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Flourish After Cancer podcast. If you loved this episode, please be sure to leave a review and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Sending all my best your way, Dr. Megan.